Hi everyone, here we are back for chapter 17, Managing Your Career. I always like to do this chapter because I think it's important, really no matter where you are in your career, and the earlier the better to think about some of these things, to be able to think about, manage your career better, think about what some of your goals are, your professional goals, your personal goals, and understanding how you can achieve those. The workplace and careers are not what they used to be. In terms of that, people used to, work one place for 30, 40 years and then retire from there. But, now people change jobs and even careers maybe 3, 4, 5 times in a span. So in a lifespan. So the more you understand them, kind of the better off you could be. The more you understand this idea of career planning, the better off you'll be. Okay, so let's just talk about the difference between career. It's the pattern of the work-related experiences that span someone's life. Let's just move this over a little bit. Sorry about that. And then career management is this idea of managing yourself and managing the organization, best managing yourself and the organization you're with, and setting your goals and setting up strategies for how to achieve those goals, and really being aware of what's going on. Okay, so again, why you need to understand careers. If you can be more proactive in your planning. It's also important, particularly when we talk, to be able to understand the careers of the people who work for you. If you become a manager, when and if you become a manager, and helping other people to achieve their goals as well. We talked about a lot of that in the performance management chapter of this book. And then it also it's good for you financially because you can make decisions that are going to help you out. Okay, so old versus new. The new paradigm is there's this, we look for occupational excellence, and people are more aligned with projects than they are to organizations. The old career paradigm is that people have the one employer focused. You always worked at this top-down firm. It wasn't, there's sort of this interplay that exists now, and people had, were allegiant to one corporation or one organization their whole career. Okay, so you can just go through here the new career paradigm versus the old career paradigm. It talks about things a little bit more in depth. This is right from the book. You can just go through those on your own. Okay, so there's this whole idea of the realistic job preview, and that's the idea that you should really know, warts and all, what's going to happen in the job, and it's sort of the responsibility of the people who are hiring you to also give you some sort of realistic expectation, as I said, the good, the bad, and the ugly about what the job's going to be like and where it can lead you. And it's also incumbent upon you as the employee to ask the important questions. Okay, so being your own career coach, that you need to, change is inevitable. That's the big thing. So you got to stay as flexible as possible. And again, emotional intelligence. We're getting this over and over and over again. There are quite a few books about emotional intelligence and articles out there about emotional intelligence. I encourage you to read them and seek them out on your own if you're interested. And people who have high emotional intelligence get promoted more. They're more desirable. We talked about how emotional intelligence is an important characteristic and skill for managers. So again, this idea of emotional intelligence. All right, so there's a career stage model, establishment, advancement, maintenance, withdrawal. Now, these times, when they talk about the life stages or the ages, they're not completely hard and fast, and you might move in and out of them at different times of your life. But it's just sort of as a general model for that. Okay, so there's establishment. So when you're learning your job, begin to fit into the organization and the occupation. Advancement, you start to have increasing responsibility and increase in skill growth. Maintenance is this idea. It's sort of like sort of the middle career after you in your 40s and that kind of thing. That you really perfect your skill and become an expert in one area. And then withdrawal is at the end of the career when you are going to retire, and and some people retire and then move on to another career altogether. Okay, so for the newcomers, one idea that we talk a lot about and have been talking about for quite a few years in the industry, this idea of the psychological contract. And that is that it's talking about the implicit, the things that are implied or the things that are not necessarily spoken about. You need to know what those things are. So you need to, if they're not spoken, if they're not documented, you might want to talk to your manager about them. Managing the stress of socialization. We talked about that. It's the idea of getting acclimated to the organization. We talked about that in the culture stage. And then, moving from being someone on the outside to really being someone who's fully ingrained in the organization. So here we go. Psychological contract, implicit agreement between an individual and an organization. It specifies what each is expected to give and receive in the relationship. So it's those things that aren't said, but you probably should talk about them. Okay. So the advancement stage, that's kind of the advancement stage is when you honing your skills, becoming more involved in the organization. So this is when you think about the career path versus the career ladder. The career path is just all these different jobs. I had this job, then I had that job, then I had this job. Whereas the career ladder is actually you're showing progress through the organization or through the industry that you're interested in, so that you're climbing the career ladder, so to speak. Now, important for many people in a career is this idea of mentoring. And there's the mentor and there's the mentor and the mentee. And essentially they provide coaching, they help facilitate movements, or they share information with you. It's usually someone who's older than you, who's been in the industry for a while. They might not necessarily be in the exact same area that you're in, but it's someone with whom you have some sort of kinship, and who you respect and trust. And they also provide friendship and psychological support and that kind of thing. So there's the phases of the mentorship: initiation, which is when the relationship begins. It can be someone that socially. It could be someone that from your school. It could be someone that you've met in your in another job, and you're not in the same organization, but still helps you out with things. So anyway, it's basically the growth of any relationship, that you get to know each other, and then you start to develop a deeper bond. Eventually, the protege, which would be you, the mentee, becomes more independent, and then the relationship has this sort of new identity. So these are all things happening in the establishment stage. We're kind of moving back and forth between these things. Okay, maintenance stage. There could be some problems in the maintenance stage because people can really face a level of burnout or just exhaustion, or you might feel like some slowed or stalled career growth. It's when you really need to figure out ways to reinvigorate yourself and get yourself reinterested in what's going on. But and the upside of that is sometimes people feel very content in their jobs, and they don't really feel like they need to move on anymore. They're content. They've become experts in their field, and they've reached the level that they're happy with. Not everybody wants to be CEO, and not everybody needs to be CEO. Sometimes you just really want to be comfortable with what you're doing. You're still learning things, and you still feel good about what you're doing, and you can you're happy doing just that, and that's good. Okay, so this is when we get more into the withdrawal stage, and there's a stereotype, particularly now, that people are living longer and working longer. There's a lot more older workers in the workforce. So stereotypically, they tend to be undervalued. That people think they're less productive, more resistant to change, less motivated. But that is not always true. In fact, it really is usually not true. In fact, they can offer quite a bit to the organization in terms of continuity and organizational history. They can act as role models for new people, share their experiences, show their work ethic, loyalty, all these kinds of things. There's a lot of positivity to older workers, and particularly with continuity and as I said, organizational history and that kind of thing. Okay, so what is it that people think about when they retire? These are sort of self-evident. I think they're self-evident. How good your health is. Some people, it can be both sides. If people are forced to retire because they because they're in poor health, or people you can retire while you still have your health and really enjoy your retirement. It's dependent upon what the company policy is. Some people have retirement plans set up. Some people are obliged to retire after a certain age or a certain number of years in a job. What your family issues and your family situation is, how much income you have, if you can actually afford to do it, whether you have the opportunity to do it. There's all these things. These things are, and it changes. It's different for everyone. Everyone's situation is different, but there are things that you want to think about. Okay, now this is an area that I really like to talk about with people. And I think it's important to think about and just have a little bit of self-reflection on. And it's this idea of career anchor, that everybody has an anchor, a career, quote-unquote career anchor that they gravitate towards. It could be technical, it could be managerial, autonomy and independence, security, stability, entrepreneurial creativity, service or dedication to a cause. Some people just like a pure challenge, and some people are looking for a lifestyle. So we're going to go through them one by one. But I encourage you to think about this, openly, be open and honest with yourself, and really understand what you think your career anchor is, because it can make a big difference in your career and in your life. So technical functional competence, they want to be really good in one area. They want to really hone their skills in accounting or in marketing or in HR or whatever, engineering, whatever it may be, customer service. So they really want to have one functional area. General managerial competency is this idea that they don't want to specialize. They don't want to specialize in one area. They want general management responsibility. They want to see that they have. It's not just about maybe getting more money. It might be one thing that they look about, but they like problem solving. They like working with people. They like moving projects along, that kind of thing. Autonomy or independence. People they want to work under. They don't necessarily want to have a lot of close supervision. They want to have their own rules. They generally speaking want to work alone. They don't want to be too rigid. Oftentimes, people who have the autonomy and independence become writers, professors, consultants, that kind of thing. Security stability is this idea that they want to have a job and they don't want to have to really stray from it for very long. That could be something in an organization. It could be a geographic area. Like government workers provide that kind of security. Some types of jobs in, say, insurance or banking provide that kind of opportunity for stability. They just want to. They're happy with knowing what's going to happen and knowing what's going to be planned. I am definitely the autonomy independence, and for years I thought that I tried to be a security stability person, and finally someone said to me one day, you don't have to be that. You do not have to be that kind of person. There's some people. I thought that, I just thought that, and I thought it was normal to not like it. But there are people who really, really enjoy that, and that's important. And it's, as I said, whatever it is that your career anchor is, that's what you should hang on to. Okay, entrepreneurial creativity. A lot of people, they want to create something on their own. They, they want to build a business. They don't necessarily. They don't necessarily want to work by themselves, but they want to lead a group that's going to, create a new product or create a new store or something like that. Service or dedication to a cause. People with this tend to be attracted to, social service, nonprofit work. People who, direct service to people. Pure challenge. So constantly wanting to constantly having a new project. Like to have, solve problems that might be very difficult. They don't want to do things that are too routine. They want things to be varied. I actually also am sort of a pure challenge person. I like to do a project and I move on to another project. So lot of times those would be consultants or project-based people. And then lifestyle, they want to have ability to have their lifestyle match their job. So they want to be able to integrate the work and job. So they might say work for 2 or 3 years and then take 9 months off. Or they might want to have a job, like a travel writer or something like that, or a food critic. I mean, these are, kind of pie in the sky jobs. But on the other hand, if that's what you want to do, you should really strive to do that. And do everything you can and find yourself a mentor to see if it can happen, and stick to your guns and come up with a plan and go for it. So anyway, that's careers. As I said, I think it's important to think about that, really contemplate it. You might want to, if you're not going to keep the book, you might want to take some good notes from this chapter and tuck them away and look at them from time to time. Okay, so that's it with chapter 17, and we'll be up next with chapter 18, which is the next chapter is the final chapter. This one is the second last chapter. Okay, thanks guys.